Welcome to the deep dive. You know the story. AI is here, the investment is massive, but there's this quiet disaster that organizations really aren't talking about.
It's a huge paradox, right?
Yeah,
Companies are pouring billions into these sophisticated systems.
billions. And yet, the cold reality is that something like 80% of major AI adoption initiatives fail. 80%.
That number should be terrifying to any CFO.
Yeah.
It's just a colossal waste. And what's worse is that these tools are either just sitting there, languishing, or they're actively being undermined by the very people they're supposed to help.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. What is going on? Is the tech just not ready, or is this, fundamentally a human problem? We're looking at a fascinating qualitative study that went inside a software firm. Let's call it Tekoto. Find the real fault line.
Yeah, the research is pretty clear. The failure isn't technical. It's this complex, messy friction between our rational brains and our emotional responses.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why the human element is making 80% of these sophisticated systems just fall flat.
Well, the key finding is that trust isn't just one simple thing. It's not a monolith. It actually splits into two completely separate dimensions.
3 dimensions. Okay.
First, you've got cognitive trust. Think of this as the logical part, the rational evaluation.
So does it work? Is it any good?
Precisely. Is it competent? Is it useful? Does this thing actually save me time? If the answer is no, your cognitive trust plummets. It's all performance-based.
That makes perfect sense. It's measurable. So what's the other half? The one that seems to be causing all the problems?
That would be emotional trust. And this is all about feeling. It's effective. It's rooted in feelings of comfort, safety, security,
Or fear?
or fear. Big time. Fear of surveillance, worry about your data being misused. You could rationally know an AI is brilliant, high cognitive trust, but if you feel watched or judged by it, your emotional trust is in the basement.
Wow, that distinction is huge. It means you could have a perfect algorithm, technically flawless, but if your employees feel unsafe, it is still going to fail.
It will. And before we get into the behaviors, it's really important to clarify what kind of AI we're talking about.
Right, we're not talking about robots or like a chatbot you choose to talk to.
No. The focus of this study, and where this problem is most acute, is with embedded AI.
The invisible stuff.
Exactly. The algorithm that's just running in the background. It could be screening resumes, detecting fraud, or in the case of TechCo, it was a competence mapping system,
Oh, what?
a system that tracks employee skills and activities to help figure out who to put on which project.
Oh, I see. And because it's invisible, that's what dials up the anxiety.
That's the black box problem. You don't know what data it's pulling, you don't know how it's being used, and that uncertainty just breeds fear. It makes building that emotional trust incredibly difficult.
Okay, so this brings us to the core of the problem. It's not that people just stop using the tool. It's way more subtle than that and more destructive. These two types of trust create 4 different mindsets.
Right? 4 distinct configurations, and each one triggers specific behaviors that directly corrupt the AI's data.
Let's start with the easy ones.
Sure. You have full trust. That's high cognitive, high emotional. These people get it, they find it useful, and they feel safe. Then you have full distrust. Low cognitive, low emotional.
The tool is useless and it's spying on me, so I'm out.
Exactly. They just avoid it. Those 2 are simple.
The really interesting ones are the 2 in the middle, because these are the employees who are still using the system, but they're, in a way, fighting it.
Yes. So first you have uncomfortable trust. This is high cognitive, low emotional.
So I know this thing works, but I hate it.
You've got it. They've seen the data, they recognize its competence, but they live in fear. They're worried about surveillance, about being judged, about misuse of their data.
That sounds exhausting, just living with that conflict every day.
It's a huge source of emotional labor. And then you have the flip side, which is just as dangerous, blind trust.
Low cognitive, high emotional.
Right. This is someone who trusts the AI because, they trust the company, or they like the manager who introduced it. They feel comfortable.
Even if the AI is actually garbage.
Even if the algorithm is producing inaccurate or biased results, they aren't applying any skepticism because they feel safe.
So you could have someone just religiously following the recommendations of a tool that's consistently making bad decisions.
And they're enabling that incompetence to spread. And all 4 of these mindsets then translate directly into how people manage their digital footprint, the data that feeds the machine.
Right. This is the human sabotage part. The study found 4 specific ways people mess with the data.
The first one is called detailing. And this isn't withdrawal. It's the opposite. It's active cultivation.
Like polishing your digital self for the machine to see.
Yes, exactly. At TechCo, people knew the competence map was looking for keywords related to, hot new technologies, so they started detailing.
What does that mean?
It means they'd make sure to document even minor work on a project using those keywords. They'd inflate their fluency to game the system and get on the cool projects.
So it becomes pure impression management. And right away, the data about who actually knows what in the company is totally corrupted.
Totally corrupted. The second behavior is confining. This is all about controlling what the AI sees.
To reduce that surveillance anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Marking calendar entries as private, restricting access to documents. One manager in the study said scheduling a simple meeting became a nightmare because everyone's calendars were suddenly opaque.
So the tool designed to make things more efficient actually grinds everything to a halt.
It made it impossible. And then, of course, you have withdrawing.
Just opting out completely.
Right. They avoid the AI-linked tools. They go back to email or face-to-face, which solves their personal anxiety but starves the AI of data. And they might become invisible for career opportunities.
And the last one, manipulating, sounds like the most deliberate.
It is. This is deliberately feeding the system biased or just plain wrong data. Outright deception, maybe to get an advantage or, just to prove to everyone else that the algorithm is flawed.
So if we connect all this back to that 80% failure rate, it's these defensive behaviors.
The death by 1,000 cuts, the confining, withdrawing, manipulating, even the detailing. It all creates this distorted, incomplete data set. The AI's performance degrades.
Which then erodes the cognitive trust.
Exactly. The tool stops being useful, which just confirms everyone's suspicions, and the whole thing spirals into failure. The humans, in protecting themselves, are strangling the machine.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this isn't just about the company's bottom line. Let's focus on the individual consequences, the personal cost of this trust misalignment.
Well, let's start with that uncomfortable trust group. Those employees are carrying a huge burden of emotional labor. They're constantly self-monitoring, self-censoring their digital behavior. That's mental energy they can't spend on their actual work.
And the career implications are massive. You mentioned that if you're in the withdrawing group, you become invisible. If that AI is deciding who gets on the next big project, you're just not in the running.
You're not. And conversely, the people who get good at manipulating or detailing their digital footprint, they're the ones getting ahead. The system starts rewarding data manipulation over actual skill.
So it creates this whole new kind of inequality based on who's best at gaming the AI.
It penalizes honesty and rewards strategic deception. And that's a profound shift in who succeeds inside an organization.
And then there's just the basic loss of efficiency. People don't trust the AI's output, so they spend hours manually double-checking it.
It's that phenomenon of algorithm aversion.
Yeah.
You'll see an AI outperform a human 9 times out of 10, but if people see it make just one mistake, they'll lose faith and revert to the less accurate human process.
Yeah.
It completely negates the whole point of the investment.
So the tech is capable, but it's organizationally useless because the humans are fighting it.
Pretty much.
Okay, so if the answer isn't just buy better tech, it has to be about directly addressing this human trust problem. Both sides of it, the cognitive and the emotional. Where do organizations even start?
You have to start by building cognitive trust through transparency. And that means clearly explaining what the AI does and how it works.
No more black boxes.
No more black boxes.
Buses.
You need accessible documentation, clear diagrams, and you have to be honest about the system's limits.
But we talked about that paradox, right? At TechCo, when they made the system's search logs transparent, it actually freaked people out. It triggered emotional distrust.
Which is why the transparency has to be strategic.
Mm-hmm.
You focus on the logic, not the inputs. A great example is Siemens. They use visual dashboards to show engineers how their predictive maintenance AI reached a conclusion. It highlighted which sensor data was most important.
So the engineers could see the AI's reasoning, and it lined up with their own expertise, which built their confidence.
It built cognitive trust without exposing anyone's personal private data.
Okay, so that's cognitive. What about the emotional side, the fear and safety part?
That requires ethical governance and psychological safety. It's all about making people feel confident the AI won't be used to harm them.
So actual rules.
Written rules, clear ethics principles, usage restrictions, like explicitly prohibiting the use of AI data in performance reviews, and a real process for people to appeal the AI's decisions.
Like Salesforce creating a whole office of ethical and humane use.
Exactly. You institutionalize the guardrails.
Yeah.
And then on the safety side, you have to create an environment where it's okay for people to say, I'm scared of this thing.
To make those negative emotions legitimate, instead of just writing people off as resistant to change.
Right. Microsoft did this with their AI empathy labs. They created these confidential sessions where employees could just talk about their fears. I'm worried this will take my job, or I feel like I'm being watched. Just validating those feelings seriously increased emotional comfort.
And that leads into the idea of fairness, right? Procedural justice. People need to feel like they have a voice.
Yes. This is about including employees in the design process, and it's also about using opt-in defaults instead of opt-out,
Why is it so important?
because opt-in signals respect for their autonomy. At TechCo, it was opt-out, but social pressure meant everyone felt they had to participate anyway, even if they were uncomfortable, just to stay visible.
Giving people a genuine choice builds a lot of emotional trust.
Okay, and the last big intervention is about shoring up that cognitive trust again.
It is. It's capability building and calibration. The goal isn't just to teach the tech, it's to give people calibration training.
What's calibration training?
It's helping employees develop an accurate intuition about when to trust the AI and, just as importantly, when to be skeptical of it.
So you're teaching them how to be an expert editor of the AI's output.
That's a perfect way to put it. They need to understand its specific blind spots. Deloitte did this with an AI apprenticeship program, pairing consultants with the data scientists so they could see how the sausage was made. It gave them a much more informed and appropriately skeptical perspective. So zooming back out, the takeaways here are pretty clear for you listening. First, that 80% failure rate. It's fundamentally a human problem. It's about psychology, not just technology.
Second, you absolutely have to address both cognitive trust, is it competent, and emotional trust, is it safe,
Ah.
at the same time. You can't just do one.
And third, even if you have a great company culture, you can't assume that will just take care of it.
No, AI introduces brand new anxieties about surveillance and judgment that you have to tackle head on. A pre-existing culture of trust is not enough on its own.
So what does this all mean for the future of work? It seems like successful AI adoption is fundamentally changing the psychological contract between employees and their company. You know, that unwritten deal about what we contribute and what we get in return.
It absolutely is. AI directly threatens the value of that hard-won, tacit expertise that people spend their whole careers building.
So what's the final thought here? How do companies get this right?
The final thought is this. For organizations to truly leverage AI and reverse that failure rate, they have to commit not just to augmenting tasks, but to elevating human work. If AI automates the routine stuff, the new psychological contract has to explicitly define and reward the uniquely human skills that complement AI judgment, creativity, complex problem solving. The things a machine can't do. That's the only way you get real long-term collaboration instead of just a race to replace tasks.